Good afternoon, children. Another weekend, so another story. So, 50 greatest short stories for children. This is a story of the selfish giant. Oscar Wilde was a very great writer, and it is being retold from the original story which Oscar Wilde had written. So, listen to it carefully. You might pick up some very beautiful words on the way. Once there was a beautiful garden in which the children used to play every day on their way home from school. The children didn't think that the beautiful garden belonged to anyone in particular, but one day a huge giant strode in and boomed, "What are you all doing here? This is my garden. Get lost." Very rude. 7 years ago, the giant had gone to visit his friend, the Cornish ogre. Now he was back, and he wanted his garden all to himself. Of course, the children ran away at once, but the giant wasn't satisfied. Straight away, he put up a high fence all the way around his garden with a notice board outside which read, "Trespassers will be prosecuted. Trespassers will be prosecuted." He really was a very selfish giant. Now the poor children had nowhere to play, but the giant didn't give any thought to that. He was too busy wondering why the blossom had fallen from the trees, why the flowers had withered, and why all the birds seemed to have flown away. Surely, it meant to be the springtime, the giant thought as he looked out of the window and saw huge flakes of snow beginning to tumble from the sky. Frost painted the trees silver, a blanket of ice chilled the ground and hardened the plants into stiff, lifeless spikes. Day after day, the north wind roared about the giant's garden, zooming around his roof and howling down his chimney pots, and the hail came to visit too, battering on the giant's windows until the giant bellowed with annoyance and clapped his hands over his ears against the noisy rattling. Then, one Saturday, the giant woke up to hear a sound he had almost forgotten. It was a bird, chirruping and cheeping in his garden. A beautiful perfume tickled the giant's nose. It was the scent of flowers. "Spring has come at last," the giant beamed, and he pulled on his clothes and ran outside into his garden. The giant couldn't believe what he saw. The snow had melted, the frost and ice were gone, the sky was blue, and the breeze was gentle and warm. And there were children everywhere. They had crept back into his garden through a hole that had worn away in the fence. Now children were sitting in trees heavy with ripe fruit and playing among flower beds filled with nodding blossoms. Some were running over the emerald green grass scattered with daisies and buttercups, and the sound of their happy laughter filled the air. Only in one corner of the garden it was still winter. A little boy was standing in a patch of snow, looking up at the bare branches of a chestnut tree and crying because he couldn't reach it. The giant's heart ached as he watched. "Now I know what makes my garden beautiful," the giant murmured. "It's the children. How selfish I have been." The giant strode through the garden towards the sobbing little boy. The giant scooped him up gently and set him amongst the icy boughs of the chestnut tree. At once the broad green leaves appeared all over the branches and down below. The snow vanished and it was spring. The little boy's face brightened into a huge smile as he reached his arms up around the giant's neck and hugged him. "It is your garden now, little children," laughed the giant. and the children skipped about delightedly. The giant took his axe and knocked down the fence. He had more fun than he ever had in his life playing with the children all day. Only one thing spoiled the giant's newly found happiness. He looked all over his garden for the little boy, whom he had helped onto the tree, but he was nowhere to be found. The giant loved the little boy the best because he had kissed him, and he longed more than anything to see his friend again. Many years passed by, and the children came every day to play in the beautiful garden. The giant became old and creaky, and eventually he could no longer run about and let the children climb over him as he had done. The giant now sat in a special armchair so he could watch the children enjoying themselves. My garden is very beautiful, he would say, but the children are the most beautiful things of all. Sometimes the giant's huge grey head would nod forwards, and he would begin to snore, and the children would creep away quietly so that they didn't disturb him. And one afternoon, the giant woke from such a little doze to see an astonishing sight. In the farthest corner of his garden was a golden tree he had never seen before. The giant's heart leaped for joy, for standing underneath it was the little boy he had loved. The giant heaved himself up from his armchair and shuffled across the grass as fast as his old legs could take him. But when he drew near the little boy, his face grew black as thunder. There were wounds on the little boy's palms and on his feet. "Who has dared to hurt you?" boomed the giant. "Tell me, and I will go after them with my big axe." "These are the marks of love," the little boy smiled, and he took the giant's head. "Once you let me play in your garden," the little boy said, "and today you shall come with me to mine, which is in paradise." And when the children came running to play that afternoon, they found the giant lying dead under the beautiful tree, covered with a blanket of snowy white blossoms. Now, can you identify for me who was that little boy? Thank you very much. See you next weekend.